I feel like the younger generation is more in tune to bring the security industry into the whatever century we're in, right? Because right now we're stuck in the Stone Ages still because of the good old boys culture.
Yeah, it's been cool to see how LinkedIn has become more of like a social platform as well. I really feel like that happened during COVID. And so you're kind of like the influencer of the access control world, one of them. So it's just really cool to watch too.
My wife and kids are tired of me explaining different doors out in public, but my goal with the door community is just to spread awareness of the life safety importance of doors.
I love how there's please in all caps and every single letter is underlined with a separate red line. Please do not twist and turn the lock. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have with us a unique voice in the door hardware industry, Benji Bolick. Benji is known affectionately as the Door Dork on LinkedIn, brings a fascinating blend of experience to the table, and he has a varied background in public speaking, coaching, and leadership. Yet it's his current work at Asa Abloy that has firmly positioned him at the intersection of usability and security. Benji's unique, genuine curiosity and drive has made him a vocal leader, consistently sparking important conversations around door fails while emphasizing core values of empowerment and innovation. More than that, Benji is at the forefront of pushing for an industry where usability and security aren't just buzzwords, but are genuinely integrated into every product and process. He is uniquely positioned to bridge the gap between industry insiders and the broader public. Voices like his ensure that technology evolves, it becomes more accessible, secure, and user-friendly, which is our whole mission at Quantal. So without further ado, let's dive in. Benji, welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I can't believe someone actually wants to talk about doors for a whole hour. So, like random people don't want to do that. So thank you for being on the podcast. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start by telling everyone how you first got into the access control industry and how you became the door dork on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So, from the earliest memories that I can remember of reaching up to grabbing a doorknob, I'm just kidding. I never thought twice about a door. 5 years ago was when I actually entered into the industry, and a door was a door and a key was a key. Where I really fell in love with the industry was actually on my final interview with Abloy. I thought I did really well in the interview, and then they asked me to stay on afterwards, and they're saying, hey, we've got a live demo of one of our attack-resistant doors going on. Do you want to check that out? I'm like, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah. And then I was thinking if I say no, maybe they're not going to give me the job. So I said, let's go for it. And this demo was remarkable. Like literally there's this door that they shot up with different calibers of guns. Then they gave a guy a baseball bat and set a timer for 5 minutes. And the reason they did 5 minutes was, that's the time that first responders are usually in. And he had 5 minutes to try to bust down this door, and he couldn't. He was like breaking the hardware, but couldn't get through. He was breaking the glass, but couldn't reach through and grab the hardware to unlock the door. And that's really like the day that I was like, wow, we do really important stuff in this industry. Like that's like protecting people's livelihood and safety. And so, yeah, that's really when I first started. I was in love with the industry after that demo. And I'm really glad they actually gave me the position because I was sold. I wish I got into the industry 10 years before that, because who knows of like what innovation or change we could have created by then. So
from meeting so many people in the access control industry, it sounds like once somebody's in, they're in. I haven't heard of many people like leaving the industry.
Yeah, once you're in, locked in, right? Like you can't escape. There's no free egress in the door hardware and security industry.
So tell me about your strategy online with the Door Dork kind of like initiative of sharing door fails and everything like that.
Yeah, so the Door Dork started at the beginning of the pandemic. I can't believe it's been 3 years. There was like this virus thing going around, and like it was changing things. And, my day-to-day job was out visiting customers and end users that were using our product and trying to convince them to continue to use our product. I tell people that part of my job was to tell people that are using doors to continue to use doors, right? Like I was like my day to day. And I was used to showing up to 3 to 5 different customers every day. And then overnight, that door was slammed, right? Like hospitals were shut down, universities were shut down, K through 12, governments were shut down, right? And like overnight, I needed to find a creative way to reach those customers. And surprisingly, I stumbled upon LinkedIn. And, I was able to maintain digital relationships with the relationships that I've already built. But I was looking for a way to like creatively look for new relationships to build and expand my network. And really, that's what started it was the pandemic. Started posting content, and the idea of the content was I know firsthand, and I'll be the first one to admit that I'm not the smartest dork out there. There are a lot of smarter people in the industry that have forgotten more than I'll ever learn. But if I just present it and ask the question, it gets people engaged. It builds the community. People argue about what is right and what is wrong, and we're able to work it out. And that's where the true value of the Door Dork posts come from, is the community side of it. So
Yeah, having the conversation from all the different types of experts or different viewpoints from integrators to the people who are in other hardware companies or within Asa Abloy, I think is where a lot of the really interesting stuff has come from with the Door Dork on LinkedIn. Tell me more about how you think COVID really changed the access control industry and specifically on the hardware side, since that's where your expertise is.
oh yeah, there was a huge rush of touchless solutions when everyone wanted, like, but they were afraid to touch the door. Remember, people were
Yeah.
dressed in like crazy machines to go to the grocery store because they were so afraid. And those little keychain holder things they would use to like open up doors. And so I would say like touchless solutions or um, auto operators like definitely blew up during the pandemic because people were afraid to touch the actual hardware. But in reality, that just helped make the world a little bit more open, a little bit more user friendly. Like there was a lot of like wave to open um, hardware installed out there because of that. And ultimately, I think the whole world needed more of that, that we needed more of the accessibility. I mean, the ADA Act was signed 33 years ago, and there's still buildings out there that are not ADA compliance that like are
Yeah.
like not accessible in a lot of different ways. So I think the pandemic definitely helped shift us forward. Not only that, but I would say like it digitally woke us up because a
Yeah.
lot of companies were so used to doing like the good old business, like a handshake over the desk. And like that opened up the world to the digital and like the at least the door hardware industry was a little bit behind. I would say the security
Yeah.
industry and behind technology wise. And overnight, they're like, oh, actually, maybe we do need to have a well-run website, right? like just like the basics. Maybe we do need to have a social media presence. Maybe we do need to be creating content out there. And so, one thing led to another, and I got a job opportunity out of it and promoted within the organization. So can't complain about that side.
Yeah, exactly. So, how do you think that's kind of is it accelerating? Is it slowing down? How have things changed post COVID now that people aren't as immediately concerned about it? Do you think that there's still a lot of momentum?
I definitely think at least the touchless solutions have kind of, I think people were kind of, uh, what's the word? Like they were drinking out of the fire hose of like touchless solutions for a while there. And so I
Yeah.
think they're overwhelmed with it. But the idea and the technology that was developed during that whole process is still there and it's still applicable in a lot of different ways. I mean, if you look at the most accessible doors in the world, there's some of like the grocery store doors, right? The big automated slider ones that let everyone in. But it's like that's the most accessible open door possible. It's not very secure because it lets everyone in, but you know,
Yeah, yeah. Have you guys seen changes in like piggybacking and that kind of thing? Those kinds of basic security kind of concerns as you increase usability. Are there ways that Asa Abloy or other companies that you are familiar with might be working to simultaneously improve the security and usability together?
yeah, I would say there are a lot of companies out there. Asably specifically focuses on like the hardware. That's more on like I feel like the technology side of things, where that's the OEM or the head end access control system with the VMS connected that can help people from tailgating into those kind of situations. There
Yeah,
are
that
ways,
definitely plays a role.
yeah, there are ways to do it with door hardware, but it's like with PIR sensors and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it's harder to do when you don't have a visual of someone scanning the credential and connecting it to the like the VMS system and saying, "Hey, this is an authorized credential," but we had another person walk in at the same time. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say there's still a lot of opportunity with that technology because there's so many legacy systems out there, as we
Yeah.
all know. I don't know. I feel like the security industry needs to like really ramp up and integrate some of these newer technology. I don't know how long has tailgating been? Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
it's been I don't know 10 or 15 years we've had this technology, and yet it's not widely adapted yet, which is a concern.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's been promising for me coming from the outside, coming into access control industry to see that there seems to be more momentum now than there was, 4 years ago. But I hope that that continues and we do see more adoption of technology that's trying to increase the security and the usability of these systems. And I think you're right on the software side, like with what Quantal's doing, we're hoping to find better integration with the hardware. Is that an area that you're familiar with, like the interoperability issues with hardware and software and uh, that area?
That's a whole nother level of like chaos. I mean, I know I'm
Yeah.
aware, different APIs and opening up options for other companies to integrate. And
Hmm.
that's what one thing that Asably we're trying to do is just being as open as possible and wanting to work with as many people as possible. But it's concerning because there's a lot of more legacy systems out there that are very proprietary and they don't want to share. And I think that's not the way the world is going nowadays. Like people
Yeah.
need to share that information with each other for the whole industry to rise, right? With
Yeah.
if the tide comes in, the whole industry rises together, right? So
Yeah.
it's definitely something there's an opportunity to help contribute towards. And I mean, there's the software side and there's the hardware side. And like, how do you get them to keep on working together? And that'll be a constant challenge. And hopefully with technology, we can make that handshake a little easier every step of the way. So
Yeah, it's a almost like a culture shift that needs to happen in the industry, and it's kind of like the old way of thinking, and how do we shift into the new way that technology in general is going? Yeah, and I think that's why your platform is so awesome because you bring about those kinds of conversations through your posts. So yeah, I
I
just think that's great.
Yeah, if you think about it, like I know at least the door hardware industry, the average age of like a professional in the industry is around 53, 54. And so like in the next 5 to 10 years, like people are going to retire or die out of this industry. And there's kind of an
Yeah,
age, the younger generation coming in. And I feel like the younger generation is more in tune to, I mean, the technology that's available and the information sharing and I mean, AI and open options and everything like
hmm,
that to help bring the security industry into the the whatever century we're in, right? Because right now we're
yeah,
stuck in the Stone Ages still because of the good old boys culture, right? Like,
yeah. So true. So one thing I'm curious about is, have you had any specific examples of conversations that you've sparked on LinkedIn that have led to, I don't know, maybe product development at Asa Abloy, or the way that you guys have approached selling a product or something like that?
yes, actually, there's been a handful of times where conversations have sparked an idea and an idea has led to, a product being developed. And I don't want to give out too many details
Yeah, I understand.
stuff, but like there's a lot of stuff still in the works because of the data and information that you're able to gather from these social media posts. And people are constantly pinging me on LinkedIn saying like, "Hey, we've got this new technology," and like wanting Osably to like buy them out or like something like that. Like it's a good opportunity and a great position to be in because people, I guess, trust my opinion on things. I guess I've
Yeah.
earned over the years of posting quality content and being engaging with the community. But yeah, it's definitely led to innovations within the industry and as a whole, because not just Asa Abloy, just I mean, it's happened with other companies as well.
Yeah, it's been cool to see how LinkedIn has become more of like uh, a social platform as well. I remember like before, I really feel like that happened during COVID. So you're kind of like the influencer of the access control world, one of them. So it's just really cool to watch too.
LinkedIn was like my dad's super serious social media growing, right? Like it was
Yeah.
like a newspaper, but online, like that, or your virtual resume. And it's definitely changed a lot and through the pandemic. And I love the platform, obviously,
Yeah,
because
I do too.
and a lot of the security industry is on there,
Yeah.
like where it's not as accessible on like Instagram or TikTok. Like there's just not these older generation of the industry on those platforms yet. I mean,
Yeah.
there's opportunity to take advantage of these other platforms, but yeah.
I think it'd be really fun for you to share some of your favorite door fails, and maybe talk about them a little bit. Uh, do you have a present the like some images you could share, even if you pull up your LinkedIn? I think that'd be fun.
Yes, I do have some. I mean, I have too many that I could share, honestly. Uh, I've been posting 3 to 5 times weeks for 3 years now. So there's like
Yeah.
insane content out there. And I really need to get better about organizing it. But since today we're talking a little bit more about usability and like the design of things, I've specifically tailored these few photos towards that conversation. Because ultimately, I talk a lot about like fire code and life safety
Yeah.
code compliance, which is very important, but not really what we're kind of talking about today. I would say this is more about accessibility and the user experience behind the door hardware. And so, yeah, let me share my screen.
Sounds great. And if you're listening to this podcast, I recommend you go to YouTube to just watch this portion of it, so that you can see the images, or just go to Benji's LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, you can see them all on just scroll for days. This one I wanted to bring up because it brings up a couple of different points. It's actually a beautifully designed door. I love that brass is making a comeback into the industry. Like what goes around comes around. Uh, but there's a couple of different door fells, I guess, or just opportunities to share some education here. But do you notice anything off of the bat? I know you're not like particularly like door hardware dork, but do you notice anything in particular that might stand out to you?
Okay, I do see this like bar of something kind of like really far out from the door on the right. I don't know what that is, but it
It might be hard to see, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, those are the pulls from the other side. I would say the big fail here is look where the handy
Oh,
is.
how are they gonna get there?
Behind like the actual chair, and like that's a beautiful chair and that's a beautiful corner and this is a beautiful lobby, but again they aren't thinking about the user experience. Like think of if you had a wheelchair and you tried to open up these heavy wooden doors and pushing on them, and like it's going to be almost impossible for you to do without that auto operator. So here's an example of like a beautifully designed door, very aesthetically appealing, but they didn't take in mind the user experience into play. And like something as simple as just moving that chair to the other side could resolve something like that. But still, little things
Yeah.
like this, I mean, crazy, as you know. Both of these are apartment entrances. And again, aesthetically very appealing door. Like it's very clean lines. Architects love the all glass look, the frameless glass. This one has top rails, but usability, the person scans their credential and it unlocks the mag lock. You can hit the 88 button if you need to have the door opened up for you. So not too shabby. It's not like Star Trek doors where you wave your hand in front of them or like use the force to open it, but still pretty accessible to a certain extent. But from a security and design standpoint, have you ever heard of a Norman door? Have you heard of Norman door? So Don Norman, he has a book called The Design of Everything. that you need to read, like put it at the
Okay.
top.
Yeah.
Is Don Norman. He's considered like the father of user experience. Like he used to work for Disney, I think, and Apple, and some of the products behind. And everything should have a purpose. Like if it's there, it should have a purpose. And there's a whole section in the book designed, what we call now in the industry, a Norman door. And a Norman door is where the hardware is designed opposite of what you want it to do. So have you ever pushed on a pool door, or have you
Yeah.
ever pulled push door? So here we're on the inside of the building, and free egress, you want to swing outwards, but they
Yeah.
have a right there. What do you naturally want to do with the pull?
Yeah. You know, you're gonna pull it.
So I can't tell you, I've sat in this lobby before and just like hung out and watched 3 or 4 people out of like maybe 10 pull on the door.
That's so frustrating.
Frustrated with it, right? Like, get it. I get it. It's aesthetically appealing. It's beautiful. It's clean, right? But it's like little design fails like that lead to frustration with the door. And like they that now are like frustrated, and who knows, they run into someone on the street, and it's like causing a butterfly effect of negativity just because of that one little door pull.
Yeah, there's this one time I wanna say I was, like, going into, like, a train station or something like that, and there was a sign that said "push" on the door, and it was a pull door, and I was like, "What? Who installed this?" It was so crazy. I don't know if you've encountered that, but that's something that I just thought was just wild, but it's similar to this where if you have something that you traditionally see as one way, then you're gonna do it that way every time.
Yeah. And then from because there's the old teeter totter of convenience versus security. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've heard, right?
Yeah.
And like if you talk to any like good old boy in the industry, they're like, oh, if you have security, then you can't have convenience. If you have convenience, then you have low security. And nowadays, I think there is a way where you can have them both. There's
Yes.
techno utilizing technology. There's a way that you can have buildings that are both accessible, usable, aesthetically appealing, but also really secure. And from a security standpoint, there's one major flaw with this door that not a lot of people are aware of, but access control professionals install this setup all the time. But that the PIR sensor up there, the Rex up there,
Yeah.
if you wave a little piece of paper, like if you're on the outside and you slip a little piece of paper through the glass doors and you wave it around, or a little flag, or even smoke, or I've even
Mhm.
seen someone do it with
But
bourbon.
yes, I was gonna say that. I've seen videos of people doing that on, like, bank doors even that are glass like this, where they, like, do it with bourbon. I haven't seen the paper one, but that's, I mean, even easier.
Yeah, no, yeah. If you have a piece of paper, or even like the landscaping flags, like the little, or they're mapping out where things are wired. They're
Yeah.
everywhere. Just grab one of those real fast and wiggle it in front of there, and it unlocks the door. And it doesn't even trip an alarm in the system, because that's considered as a free egress, right? Like that's someone
Yeah.
at building, even though someone's entering the building. So when I posted this, there was, I don't know, hundreds of comments on like, why would they do something like that? And other people like, no, I don't get, like, what am I missing? And
Yeah.
this, the apartment door to my brother-in-law's in downtown Portland. And so I was like, just so you know, like, luckily they had access control on the elevators themselves, but the credential wasn't secure either. Like I cloned his credentials. So
Oh,
there's
man.
the other side of it as well. We
Yeah.
can go really deep into this on why this aesthetically appealing door is wrong. Oh, also, sorry, one more thing on this door is there should be an emergency override on the path of egress. So if that rec sensor failed, like hopefully the mag locks are tied to the fire system. But if they're not, even you might need to egress even in the there are times where you need to egress where it's not a fire situation, right? And so
Mhm.
someone pulled the fire alarm, or the smoke alarms haven't gone off because of that. And if that sensor fails, then people are literally stuck in this lobby because those mag locks won't unlock if that sensor fails in some way. So you're always supposed to have a secondary like form of egress for these kind of doors. Yeah. Anyways, there's this one.
That's a
And
really good example.
they
It's
also
been forever since I've seen that bourbon video, but I remember being like, "What?" Uh, that's crazy. Yeah, it's where it if you positioned that sensor in a different location, would that
that
help
would
the
help.
situation?
That would
Okay.
help. But people also, I've seen someone do it with a balloon before.
Oh, like
'Cause-
stick it in and then blow it out.
yeah, and blow it up and then let it fly. And if it's like in 15 feet out there and the balloon will trip the sensor, you're opened up the door.
Wow.
And if you're going to do it right, there are like more expensive or better technology sensors that require two different like form factors for it to
Mm,
release, whether it's like heat or mass or movement. You need at least two of those. But again, those are pretty easily to trick as well. Like it just
yeah.
blows hot air. Or I've seen someone, it was, I'm spacing on what they did, but basically they heated up like a piece of paper and the because of the heat of the temperature, that's what tricked the sensor into thinking there was a life form there. But also, like, what happens if a cat walks by or a dog walks
Yeah.
by? Trip the sensor also. Like,
So this is one area where I do think usability and security are difficult to mesh up together, where you have fire safety and also like master keys that are required for like police officers and fire professionals. Where do you think the industry is going in terms of the door hardware for enhancing the security, but moving farther away from like master keys and these kinds of situations that are really easy to break?
yeah, what I love seeing is the technology being developed nowadays. And if you asked me a year ago, I would say like mobile credentials is like the big thing. And I think there's still
Yeah,
a for mobile credentials. And obviously, I still have one on my phone. But I think the future is going to be very open, but also secure and strong with door hardware. I think there's technology being developed out there with biometrics being introduced, and people are feeling more comfortable with it, knowing that there are secure ways to to keep your biometrics secure. And so there's companies that are growing and developing and making progress where it will pick up your face from 20 feet away and
yeah,
automatically open the door for you. But it can also keep track of the face behind you, and it can send an alarm to the system like, hey, this person was not supposed to enter. Or it won't let you open the door if the person doesn't have the authorized credentials with you. And it's turning out to be where your face is your credential as opposed to you waving your phone or um,
yeah,
so my hope is that the industry is going to be more accessible, more open. Still, I mean, everyone likes a good looking door, right? But I think where the key is having the technology built in to where people still feel safe and secure in their home, their safe, their work of business, but they feel like there's still security set in place where they are feeling safe enough to be creative at work, right? So the hierarchy of needs, if you look at that, like just above like water and air, right? Like the basic necessities of life is personal safety and security.
yep,
Like if we're designing and developing buildings that aren't feeling safe, like people aren't going to be their best at work. They aren't going to be
yep,
their best at home. They're not going to be able to move on to that, the next level of like self-esteem and creativity and love, right? Like those are all part of the hierarchy of needs. They're not going to be able to have love in their life without feeling secure. And
yeah.
so my hope is that and I see glimpses of it at times. It's just right now the technology. I think the technology is there. It's just not adapted yet. Like people just haven't gotten to it yet.
And one of the pieces that will really need to be developed, I think, in this equation, because when you bring in biometric data, you really need more enhanced encryption and security protocols and communication protocols on the access control hardware as well. And that's one of the areas we're really passionate about at Quantal. But using weekends and then also using biometric data doesn't really compute for like personal security and protecting your personal data. So I really hope that the industry continues to go that direction and adopts better encryption and communication protocols as part of that. Yeah, I think that's where the industry should head for sure.
It needs to have those fundamentals set up into place because no one's going to trust a company with their biometrics unless they understand that, yes, there are safety protocols set into place where you're not going to go get like scammed or spammed because someone has your face out there. Like it's
Yep.
so I'm glad you guys are doing some good work to help move the industry along that progression. But I'm excited. I'm really excited to see where the industry goes.
Me too.
I think there's a lot of opportunity, especially in the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to be insane, right?
Yeah.
There's a tidal wave of change coming, and you can fight against the current and drown, or you can grab a surfboard and surf with it, right? Like
Yeah. Good analogy.
anytime there's a sign explaining how to use a door, that's a door fail right there. Door hardware shouldn't need an explanation. It should be intuitive.
Yeah. For those of you listening, there's two doors. On the left it says pull, and then on the right it also said pull, but they like whited it out with like tape and then put a sign underneath it that said, use this other door. Thank you.
Like
It's confusing.
have been in use at some point, but it's also like a dingy door. Like what
Yeah.
experience offering your customers right now? This was like a coffee shop or a restaurant or something like that. I would think like, ooh, I don't like look how yucky that door is, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I'm not germophobic or anything, but like I wouldn't want to like hold that. But yet we do that every day, and just normal people wouldn't notice something like that. They're just like, oh, this is how you use the door. But steps like that take like brain power, capacity, and choices. And that's like lowering our willpower and like our creativity, and like it's limiting our brain capacity. You can really get into
Yeah.
this like yeah,
Well, then
door.
that also plays into the security. And anytime that you have to bring in users making a decision in anything, it's going to bring in failures to security as well. And so making it as seamless as possible for the end user is definitely necessary. So, yeah, this is a cool example.
Yeah, a little example, but like anytime you need to explain, I was seeing this song. It's the best kind of doors are the doors you have to explain, right? Like it's like a satire like on door hardware. Like no,
Yeah,
you have to explain door hardware. It should be intuitive. If it's a pull, you pull. If it's a push, have a push bar or a flat piece of metal that you would push on, right? Just
right.
naturally, instinctively use. Yeah, this kind of stuff gets me going. Sorry. I think I only have one more, maybe a couple more. Go ahead.
I love how there's please in all caps and every single letter is underlined with a separate red line. Please do not twist and turn the lock. Just push a little, just a little push will lock it. Then unlock it for the next customer. Just push it. Don't turn it. Please, please, in all caps again. Oh my gosh, that's so confusing. And then there's like one, two, three, four, five, six other signs on this door trying to explain how the door works.
Yes. Yeah, that right there is user experience, right? Like that's like there's so many words on there that I'm like, well, I'm overwhelmed by this store, right? Like I don't know how to use it, and I'm in a rush because this is a restroom. Like I need to use the restroom right now, and how am I supposed to lock this door? What you shouldn't need in
This is a restroom.
the restroom.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah, this is so confusing. I still kind of don't understand
Yeah, so
what I
there,
would do here. And I've been looking at it for a couple minutes.
yeah, it's as simple as like the lock function is just the wrong function. There's different locking functions for different cylindrical locks or mortise locks or panic exit devices. There are different variations on how you want the functionality of the door to operate, like the operational narrative of the door, right? That's so important when you're designing the door for the user experience is to understanding what function does this door need to play. And if you have a
Yeah.
turn, people are naturally going to twist and turn, not knowing that it keeps the door locked instead of unlocking the door. What they really needed was just a little push button or
Yeah.
like an indicator, right? Like a ADA compliant thumb turn with a big old indicator giving you the confidence that you need to use the restroom, knowing that the door is locked, right? Like that's that's some of our most vulnerable states is right there. And you want to know for sure that someone's not going to come in on you while you're, doing your business.
I also just love how animated it is, the sign.
Please.
Please. And it's like, if you just push it in, and then it's like, then just push it. Like if they put shut in little parentheses, it's so silly.
Salt and pepper in here to explain this one, right?
Yeah. They need like a meme under here. Well, Benji, thanks so much for joining the podcast. It's so cool hearing somebody from the hardware side. We've interviewed people who are more in like the cybersecurity side and people who are in software. But this is so refreshing to see some of the literal just door failures that exist and where the industry is heading. So I appreciate you coming on. And if you want to share anything about what you're up to next or anything you want to share about what you're working on, now's your chance.
Yeah, no, thank you again for having me. It's rare that you get the opportunity to sit and chat about doors. So like I love that. Like that hardly ever happens in my life. Like my wife and kids are tired of me explaining different doors while we're out in public. But yeah, no, my goal with the door community is just to spread awareness of the life safety importance of doors. But yeah, we talked a little bit about design and user experience and accessibility, peace of mind. Like I want everyone to understand how important doors are. Like Erica, I've got a question for you. If you fully knew that your door was unlocked at night, could you fall asleep? Could you know that if you knew that your front door,
Absolutely not.
like that's
Yeah.
piece of that's what door hardware brings to the table is not only that accessibility side of things. It opens up opportunities for life in general, but it gives you that peace of mind. And they're so
Yeah.
important. Doors are really important, but no one thinks twice about it unless they are pulling on a push or pushing on a push. So
Yeah.
any chance you can get to help spread the awareness of that, that's our goal and mission for the door community, is to share that awareness with anyone that uses a door. So yeah,
Cool.
you can find me on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm on Instagram and TikTok and all that, but LinkedIn's my baby. So just search the door dork and you'll find me.
Sounds good. Well, thanks, Benji. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was a great conversation, and I look forward to continuing to follow you on LinkedIn. This podcast is brought to you by Quantal Security. As we wrap up today's discussion, it's important noting how tech innovations like the ones pioneered by Quantal are actively reshaping the security landscape. At Quantal, our mission is to build software innovations that make systems more accessible and more secure. From leveraging quantum technology to integrating anomaly detection and immutable ledger systems, we're solving security problems in the realms of access control and beyond. If you want to learn more about Quantal, visit our website at quantalsecurity.com and reach out to us. And if you like this episode, you can follow us for more on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening. See you next time.